Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Valley of the Judged. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me is my good brother here in the temple, the man of 1,000 runes, the CEO of Zidari Enterprises, and the bane of my fucking existence, good brother Xanatrix.
The Dari Enterprises would like to remind you that the Mecha Break Open Beta is still running, and as of tomorrow, will probably be fully open instead of requiring some sort of get in code. Get in, play. It's open until the 13th, early in the morning, because it's on Japanese time. But regardless of that, play.
Also, I wish all Narukami mains a very happy go fuck yourself.
I don't think Narukami got touched in the recent balance changes either.
No, it's principle.
Well, no, I'm saying that it's good that you're telling them to get fucked because they didn't have anything to change.
But we are not here to cover that. Well, although we may in the next couple days. You guys will see. But instead, we are here to cover the latest entry from recurring good brother Corey Burns of Rookie Jet Studio. Who, those of you familiar with the history of this channel will know that he's been on the show more than once, whether it be for the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure inspired Overarms, the Katana Zero inspired game Gimmick Zero, the Nerf blaster using hyper weapon, the Vampire Hunter D inspired Red Giant, or any number of different projects. He's no stranger to the temple. And now we're here again with something that I'd known about for several months when he did a stream hyping up future projects. At the time, I didn't know anything about it besides it being a fantasy opera. Then the Quickstart dropped, and then I find out that this is going to be a fantasy opera TTRPG that is using deck building mechanics, and I'm like, all right, I think that's something we've got to do.
I can see it. Yeah, we had to do it
Because, and now technically speaking, we didn't have to, but it is very much a case where it was necessary, because we have been very vocal about our love of card mechanics in TTRPGs.
Yeah.
Mostly because of the fact that that is a concept of using cards as the core mechanic that is largely untapped within the world of tabletop gaming. And whenever I bring this up, somebody inevitably brings up the wild cards setup in Savage Worlds and the way initiative works in that game. And I'm like, that does not count for the purposes of this, because that's just initiative. What we're referring to is when cards are the primary resolution system in one form or another. And there's been a few games that I've covered and that we've covered that do fit this bill. There's, of course, Dragonlance 5th Age, which I did a review of during TSR month. There's Faith, the sci-fi RPG, which I hope to revisit in the future. Wusuo brings up Castle Falkenstein. I suppose that is another good case. There's also pretty much everything done in the Saga Machine system, whether it be Against the Dark Yogi, which I covered, or Age of Ambition, or Shadows over Soul, or Dime Adventures. All of them using a card-based approach. And one could argue Mystic Empyrean as well as to a certain extent Emberwind, but those are using custom setups. Also Parcelings, which is the only other game that I've covered that brings in deck building mechanics. Which is why this is going to be interesting. Now, that being said, the one of the first things I really want to point out is how much I love the visual identity of Espers in this quick start. I'm not sure if this was an intentional leaning, but
Mm.
there's one artist I brought up to you that I was reminded of, and one that I'll end up bringing up as far as major vibes I get from the art.
Mm.
One of the obvious ones is, of course, Yoshitaka Amano. Most of you may know him through his concept art throughout the Final Fantasy series. The cultured among you will know him for his work on Gatchaman, as well, and the even more cultured among you will know him for his work on Guin Saga, as well as the Japanese adaptation of the Elric saga. Which, if I'm being, and of course Vampire Hunter D. If I'm being honest, while I enjoy his Final Fantasy work, his non-FF work I think is far more representative of his particular style. And of course, the other big one is Mobius, whose work is pretty much legendary within the French comic scene.
Hmm.
But with that said, I will the big reason this is something that we point out is visual identity is very important.
Absolutely.
Now, the this particular quick start is about 45 pages, so smaller than the Cosmere one that I covered last night. And I do appreciate that it has proper bookmarks. That is always something I will get on.
Yeah.
But right, but after we get a very nice bit of art, in a splash, we open into the introduction, and I will let you take this.
All right. Standing on a grassy cliff, you stare out into the sky as an airship flaps its wings, soaring off into the sunset. The glow of the setting sun would be perfect if the floating city didn't obscure your sight. You take a heavy sigh and turn back around. Your party has made it out of this mess. You, however, ready your blade at the beast before you. Welcome to Espers, a deck-building fantasy opera RPG where magic and technology coexist in a realm of endless possibility. In this immersive and expansive role-playing game, you will step into the shoes of an Esper, a gifted individual capable of harnessing the ancient powers that shape the very fabric of reality. As an Esper, you will have the ability to harness the power of magic to transform the world around you. From the ability to summon powerful creatures to the ability to control the elements, your powers are only limited by your imagination. As you journey through this world, you will encounter many dangers and challenges, from powerful monsters to ancient ruins filled with traps and puzzles. You will also encounter many other Espers, some of whom will be allies and some of whom will be enemies. You'll need to use your wits, your skills, and your powers to overcome the obstacles in your path and discover the secrets of the world of Espers. The world of Espers awaits, and fate has been thrust into your hand.
And then we go into what you need to play, the Quick Start rulebook, a set of polyhedral dice, a notebook of loose leaf paper, sorry, and one deck of standard poker cards for each player. Then we have the about Espers. An Esper is an individual who is trained to develop magical abilities through rigorous training in magic arts. These individuals usually already have a natural affinity for the arcane, allowing them to manipulate magical energies directly without the need for external devices or incantations. Esper's powers can manifest in various forms depending on the magic art they studied. Their connection to the world's magical energy, known as mana, is unparalleled, setting them apart from the rest of society, who rely on wonder technology to harness and control magic. Usually, from a young age, Espers undergo rigorous training and study in the magic arts to refine and enhance their powers. This education involves learning ancient spells, understanding the intricate flow of mana, and mastering various magical techniques specific to their magic art. Many Espers in the past would attend specialized academies or study under the guidance of experienced mentors who can help them unlock their full potential. Through years of dedication and discipline, Espers transformed their raw abilities into powerful, controlled forces capable of performing extraordinary feats. Before the rise of the Myrilian Empire, that's a really tricky set of syllables, Espers held a revered place in Myril's society. They were seen as wise sages, healers, and protectors, often serving as advisors to kings, leaders of magical orders, or defenders of cities and towns. Their abilities were respected and celebrated, and they played a crucial role in maintaining the balance and harmony of the civilized world. Espers contributed to the advancement of magical knowledge and were integral to the cultural and spiritual life of Myril. Their presence was usually a source of inspiration and wonder, and they were often depicted in art and literature as heroic figures who upheld justice and peace. However, the advent of the Myrilian Empire dramatically altered the status of Espers. The Empire, seeking to consolidate power and eliminate any potential threats to its dominance, began a campaign to demonize Espers. They were portrayed as dangerous and uncontrollable, their powers framed as a risk to societal stability. This propaganda, coupled with harsh laws and brutal enforcement, led to widespread persecution. Espers were hunted, imprisoned, and executed, forcing many into hiding. The once revered individuals became symbols of fear and mistrust, their contributions forgotten or erased from history. This shift not only affected the Espers, but reshaped the future of the entire society of Myril, casting a shadow over its magical heritage and leaving a legacy of fear and division.
Yep.
I'm very tempted to. I know it'd be tempting to make a Star Wars joke. Nope. Instead of that, you're getting Aragon.
In a way.
Just don't bring up the movie to me.
What movie?
Exactly.
So from there we get the standard role-playing tabletop game, blah blah blah,
Mm-hmm.
and about the rules, and then we get an overview of the world of Myril,
Mm-hmm.
such as the brief history and so on and so forth.
Oh.
But as usual, we don't tend to linger too much on lore. The only reason we read the initial lore about Espers is because it's integral to the characters. So with that, I think we would go to character creation next, wouldn't we, Monk?
Yep. I'll let you take that.
All right. This will be the character that you, the player, control and whom the game master guides. While the stats below are important, so is your character's role in the game. Make sure to create a backstory, description, appearance, and any other bits of information that can make your character stand out, so that the other players and the GM have a clear image of who your character is and what they stand for. Character creation begins with the selection of the character's magic art. The 9 magic arts represent different types of magic that may be learned and are available to Espers. Players should cooperate when choosing magic arts, so that their specialties don't overlap. And so, magic arts are branches of magic that Espers have studied and wield. Magic arts become more powerful as the character progresses. The intended effects of each magical ability is tied to the character's magic stat. There's a small example here. If I'm a novice in the magical art of reversal and wish to heal my teammate during a combat encounter and roll a 3 plus my fate card of 5, I would be able to heal a very small wound or restore a small amount of 8 HP. However, if I am an adept and roll 8 and my fate card of 8, I would be able to heal a broken bone or an amount of HP equal to 16. So we start with the first page of magical arts there for you, Monk. Sorcery.
Yep. Sorcery is the foundation upon which all other magic arts are built. Sorcery is the culmination of the fundamental elements of magic, harnessing the raw energies of the planet to shape reality itself. Born from the primordial essence of creation and the ancient incantations of forgotten Espers. Sorcery is available to all Espers starting at level 1. Espers gain the ability to perform various basic magical actions through the use of Legerdemain.
Legerdemain.
I always end up screwing that.
You always end up putting a second N in the word, and I don't know why.
Remember what happened with Pergerin?
Yes, I do remember what happened with Peregrine.
Mm-hmm.
You said it wrong this time around. It's been a while. It's been a while since Planet Bound, though, so you're forgiven.
Mhm.
But this comes from French, technically, as légèrement,
Mhm.
which is kind of a way of saying like lying with your hands. Not a direct translation, and I'm sure a French person in the comments is gonna be like, "That's not what that translates to," and I'm going to tell you to shut the fuck up. I don't care what you're about to say. Anyway, continue with légèrement.
Yep. Legerdemain is a foundational technique often practiced by novice espers, honing their magical skills. It allows the esper to create various magical effects within close range. The spell offers many different options for its effects. Espers using Legerdemain can magically move nearby objects, create basic illusions, create lights, create and manipulate clothing, and more, demonstrating their ability to manipulate the environment on a small scale. Furthermore, Legendarmon allows Espers to perform any basic magical spells approved by the GM. The list below are some examples of use cases of Legendarmon. And there's quite a few examples, and thus quite a few bits of guidance.
Mm-hmm.
In simplest terms, Legendarmon in this system is akin to cantrips. Or level 0 spells, depending on which system you're using. Or if we want to bring up Anima, some of the free access spells. They are tiny little tricks that you can do. Nothing that would involve a whole lot of crunch.
Mm-hmm. If you're familiar with the most ubiquitous / litigious game, this is akin to things like how druids get druid craft, or things like thaumaturgy, or anything of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
You know, being able to change the color of a thing 1 meter cubed or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, and of course, things like dancing lights, things like mage hand, that sort of thing.
Yep. Small stuff.
Mm-hmm. So with that in mind, after that we get to transmutation.
Yep.
I'll let you
Now,
take that.
well, I will note before we go much further, sorcery has this long list of examples for stuff, but looking at future magic arts, they have a specific list of levels and skills. So it's clear that sorcery is a little more of a utility sort of thing, I guess.
Yeah, that's why I compared it to cantrips.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's because sorcery is the most basic thing. Every Esper gets it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there are 9 magic arts, but we only have 3 for the quick start, which makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So transmutation. Espers who have learned transmutation are characterized by their keen intellect, resourcefulness, and deep connection to the natural world. They possess a profound understanding of the underlying principles of matter and energy, allowing them to manipulate the fundamental building blocks of reality with precision and finesse. Whether it's turning stone into gold, water into wine, or steel into feathers, those who have learned the ways of transmutation wield their magic with a deft touch and a keen eye for detail. A Esper gains the ability to transform objects, items, and sometimes life forms into other things of use through the transform function. They must make use of their environment and wit in order to be effective in and out of combat. As for the transform ability, it is the hallmark of transmutation magic, granting Espers the power to manipulate the fundamental properties of objects, materials, and even living beings. With a blend of intellect, creativity, and magical prowess, transmuters can shape the world around them to... Transmuters is such a... First suggestion, transmutationists. That's a cooler name, and it also rolls off the tongue better. That is my recommendation, my first recommendation to Rocket Jet here.
Rookie Jet.
A Rookie Jet, yes. I mean, you know why I got that wrong. I've been playing too much Bomb Rush Cyberpunk. Blame that. I've also been playing too much Mecha Break. Blame that.
Mm-hmm.
But they can reshape the world around them to suit their needs, achieving feats that defy conventional understanding. And here it describes the 4 tiers of the ability: novice, adept, master, and grandmaster, which occur at levels 1, 3, 5, and 7, respectively.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some bullet points here. At Novice, basic transformations of small inanimate objects can change the shape or appearance of simple materials like wood, stone, or metal. Limited to minor alterations, such as turning a stone into a figurine or reshaping a metal object into a different form. So it tells you your limits. There's some guidance here. I really like that. It tells you what you're limited to changing and how you are limited to changing it. I mean, because that right there, you don't need too much in guidance to know, hey, I can only do simple materials, nothing super complex like changing one gun into another. And it's only minor alterations, like taking this cube of stone and turning it into a nice little figurine, or taking this piece of metal and maybe shaping it into a knife form. Probably not even a good knife, but just like the shape of a knife. Might be a good butter knife. At Adept, you get enhanced proficiency in transforming objects with greater complexity, can transmute larger or more intricate objects, including machinery or structures. This is where you can change one gun into another gun. Able to alter the properties of materials, such as making objects lighter, stronger, or more durable. Hey, Monk, I'm going to take the AK-50 and I'm going to transmute it into lighter and more durable structure. Brandon, come see me. I just want an AK-50 in return, that's all. At master level, or master tier, mastery over a wide range of transmutation techniques can transmute living beings. So you have to get the mastery to be able to transmute anything that isn't inanimate. To a limited extent, or temporarily enhancing physical attributes. Here's the reason you want to be a master of transmutation. Self-buff. Capable of more advanced transformations, like turning one substance into another entirely different material, or creating complex constructs from new materials. So now you can pick up this hunk of metal and turn it into a gun. Just, there you go, it's a gun. You can also make it into a different metal entirely. Oh, all you have is this pig iron? Okay, I'm going to turn it into titanium alloy. Here we go. And then at the final tier, Grandmaster, virtuoso command over transmutation magic. Can perform highly complex and intricate transformations with ease. Possess the ability to transmute living beings on a larger scale, such as shape-shifting or altering biological traits. Hey, Monk, we can give ourselves gills now. Can achieve feats of transmutation previously thought impossible, such as changing the fundamental properties of matter or manipulating reality on a grand scale. And then it goes into a skill list. Transmutation skills. Playing as a transmutation Esper gives you access to a bevy of devastating skills that can change the tide of battle and the environment itself. And it looks like there's 2 pages of skills. You go ahead and take that first page there, Monk.
Yep. So with each tier, you pick one skill. For Novice, you have Shatterfield, which lets you cause moderate damage to all enemies, +1 to damage total. The effect causes 1 damage to each enemy attacked with this skill for 3 turns. And a lot of them are going to have a description in either damage or effect. So I think this is something we're gonna need to skim because we're not gonna have the full context yet. But
yeah.
For novice skills, you get Shatterfield, Ironclad, which gives you a defense boost, and Arcane Alchemy, which lets you. It's basically Alchemist's Fire.
Yeah. And you pick one of these when you get to Novice, which is starting character.
Yeah. At the Adept tier, and you pick one of these, you get Diamond Cascade, which lets you do lets you either do more damage or do armor piercing with an attack. Eternal Sandstorm, which causes moderate damage to all enemies, inflicts 1 point of continuous damage over 5 turns, or does +2 to damage total. And
I think that's or. I think that's and.
Yeah, and Wicked Alchemy, +5 to damage total, and deals heavy damage to a single target. Although there is a typo where the H was put in twice in harnessing.
Yeah, it happens. When we get to the master skills, we have Alchemist's Embrace, which Only has an effect of restrains enemies, preventing movement for 2 turns, and dealing severe earth damage. 4 points of damage for 2 turns. Is that 4 points of damage over 2 turns or 4 points each turn? Need a little more clarification there. We have Arcane Tempest, which does +4 points to the damage total, and the effect says it sears the flesh and melts metal, dealing severe damage to all enemies, and reduces enemy defense by 3 for 3 turns. And then finally, we have Fortress, which grants all allies behind this barrier with a temporary boost to defense. It absorbs 6 points of incoming damage for 2 turns. And then finally, Grandmaster skills. We have Titanic Quake, which does +8 points to the damage total and deals incredible earth damage to all enemies, preventing enemy movement for 4 turns. Blood Conversion, +8 points to the damage total, transmute a portion of the enemy's blood to water, causing severe weakness. Reduces all enemy stats by 1 die size for 3 turns. I would like to point out that turning a portion of human blood to water would kill a person. Like just a straight water would kill a person. And there's a reason we use saline instead of just straight water. You need to have those salts and other minerals and electrolytes in solution so that you can continue to absorb and cycle things. Just straight water, that's going to cause you to have a pretty massive inability to absorb things. And then Grand Enfeebling inflicts break for 3 turns.
Mm-hmm. So that obviously a lot of Earth adjacent things. So then we have Illusion. Espers who have studied illusion are known by their quicksilver wit and uncanny ability to see beyond the veil of reality. With a deep understanding of the inner workings of the mind, these Espers are able to manipulate perception and alter reality with a mere thought. Whether it's creating mirages to confuse their enemies, conjuring phantasms to distract their foes, or casting shadows to cloak their movements, those who practice illusion wield their magic with a finesse and subtlety that is unmatched. Gains mastery over mirages, trickery, shadows, and light. Illusion uses trick in order to fool enemies and gain the upper hand in all types of scenarios, but requires creativity and wit to use effectively. Then we have Trick. Trick is the art of deception and misdirection, allowing Espers to manipulate the senses and perceptions of those around them with finesse and subtlety. These Espers are skilled illusionists and masters of subterfuge, capable of creating convincing illusions, concealing their true intentions, and outwitting their adversaries with ease. Then we have the examples of the 4 tiers. And right after that are the illusion skills. And the novice tier skills are Phantom Mirage, which lets you create an illusory duplicate and reduces the chance of you getting hit. So, Blur. Veil of Shadows, which grants you invisibility for 2 turns, making you untargetable by single target attacks. And Debilitating Gleam, which +2 to damage total and deals minor light damage to all enemies and inflicts stun for 2 turns. Literally blinded by the light.
Mm-hmm.
The adept skills are Mirror Image, which creates 3 illusionary duplicates, increasing the chance of dodging attacks for 3 turns. Then you have Hall of Mirrors, which creates a maze of reflective surfaces in the battlefield and inflicts confusion on all enemies, so they randomly target allies or themselves for 2 turns. And Charming Visage, which inflicts charm on a single target, causing them to act favorably toward the caster and their allies for 2 turns. And you want to take the Master and Grandmaster?
No, that's okay. I'm just kind of wondering why you skipped the 4 tiers of examples. They give some pretty nice guidance.
I mean, there is, but I feel like it'd be repetition.
Okay.
But for the Master skills, we have Reality Bend, which causes all enemy attacks to miss all targets for 1 turn. Illusory Onslaught, +4 points to damage total, deals moderate damage to all enemies and inflicts 3 points of bleeding damage for 4 turns. Deceptive Allure, which inflicts sleep on a single target, causing them to be incapacitated until they take damage or are awakened by an ally. And at Grandmaster, you have Phantasmagoria, which +7 points to damage total and deals heavy damage and inflicts break for 3 turns. It'll be interesting to see how break works. Duplicate, which creates an illusory avatar that mimics the caster and deals duplicate damage for 1 turn. And Mind Labyrinth, which inflicts stun and break on all enemies for 2 turns. I do appreciate that there's an understanding that illusion magic is not too far removed from psychics.
Mm-hmm. I really like the fact that they make you choose what your playstyle is going to be based on those.
Mm-hmm. So then we have the School of Reversal, and I'll let you take that.
Alrighty. Reversal. Espers in the School of Reversal are marked by their compassion, their empathy, and their unwavering commitment to the sanctity of life. They possess a powerful connection to the healing energies of the planet, allowing them to channel their powers to rewind time with gentle precision. So healing is not healing. We're not accelerating your healing or anything. We are reversing the effect. Espers who study reversal are known for their skills in restoring health to the sick and injured, reviving the fallen from the brink of death, or banishing afflictions and curses with a mere touch. Those who practice reversal wield their magic with a tender touch and a heart full of compassion. They gain the ability to restore health, alter time, and revive life of all kinds through the use of reverse. Reversal magic can prove infinitely useful in combat, but they often lack offensive capabilities. I think going through the 4 tiers is going to be necessary here just to understand the limits.
Mm-hmm.
Reverse is focused on healing, restoration, and the reversal of physical harm and ailments. As Espers progress through the levels of mastery in reverse, they gain access to increasingly potent and specialized healing abilities. At Novice, they have a basic proficiency in healing and resto, capable of minor mending and alleviating minor ailments. Its limited effectiveness and scope, primarily focused on minor injuries such as cuts, bruises, and illness. The beginner level techniques for revitalizing and restoring vitality, providing temporary relief from fatigue and exhaustion. At Adept, improved mastery, allowing for some more significant restoration, such as broken bones, deep wounds, and common illnesses. There's an enhanced effectiveness and duration for the healing effects, capable of providing sustained relief and recovery over an extended period. So I'm guessing Adept is where you'd get something like regen.
Mm-hmm.
At Master, they can heal severe injuries and illnesses with ease and accelerate the healing process, promoting rapid recovery. With the versatility and precision in healing magic, they're capable of targeting specific injuries or ailments with pinpoint accuracy. And at Grandmaster, they transcend the limitations of conventional healing magic, performing miraculous feats of healing such as regenerating lost limbs, curing deadly diseases, and in some cases, even resurrecting the dead. This is a mastery over the life force itself, with the power to restore vitality and rejuvenate the body on a fundamental level.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get to the skills.
Yep.
So, novice skills.
Oh, you want me to take that?
Oh no, I was just. You get to choose between Rewind, which heals a single ally for a small amount of HP equal to the last damage taken, effectively reversing the last hit they took. That could be big, even when you're at high levels. You choose Reflective Shield, which reflects 100% of the damage from the next attack back to the attacker. Again, that could be big even at high levels. Or Undo. Cancels the last action taken by a single enemy, rendering it ineffective. Once again, could be really big. Like one of these 3 novice level skills could still be super big at high level.
Mm-hmm.
Then at Adept, you get Rewind Plus, which heals all allies for a moderate amount of HP, effectively reversing the last round of damage they took. So all damage for the last round. Wow. Reversal Aura removes all debuffs from all allies and reflects them back to the original casters. That's gross. That's gross. Oh, you inflicted us all with like poison and doom? No, now all you have it. What? Yeah. Die.
As gross as
Or
that may be, why am I getting a case of Dijon mustard?
I don't know. I can't think of a reason that we have that sort of skill in our game at all, Monk. Then we have Inversion, which makes all damage taken by the target turn into healing instead for 1 turn. That's oh, I don't have time to throw out a big healing spell where I've already used one of my other skills or I'm, low on other resources. But our tank is about to die. Inversion. Tank, taunt him. Taunt. Oh, I'm back at full HP. Thank you, Reverser. You're welcome. Then we have the master level skills. Monk, and I'll leave that to you.
All right. So at master level, we have Chrono Break. Wow, that's a deep cut. Breaks the flow of time to reverse significant damage and effects on the party. Reverses the last round of damage and negative effects on all allies, restoring all HP and removing all debuffs. Karmic Retribution reflects a powerful attack back at the enemy, magnifying its effects. Reflects double of the attack's damage back to the attacker. Mirror Force, is that you?
I wonder.
And Rewind Strike strikes an enemy with the reversed force of their own attack. Plus 5 points of damage total. Deals moderate damage to an enemy and reduces their total damage by 50% for 3 turns. Then Grandmaster skills. We have Temporary Reset, which restores the use of all skills. Absolute Reversal reverses the state of the battlefield, swapping buffs and debuffs between allies and enemies. Swaps all buffs on enemies with all debuffs on allies, and vice versa. And Rebirth reverses the flow of life and death, bringing a fallen ally back to life. Revives a single ally with full HP and removes all status ailments. This is a fucking time mage.
In certain ways.
But then we have stat generation.
I'll leave that to you as well, since the skills were so short.
Alright. In Espers, characters have several stats which determine the character's chance of success and failure when attempting to perform various actions within the game. To begin creating your character, select one of the following sets of numbers. Record those values on your character sheet by taking each value from the set and place each one into the desired stats. These values will determine the size of the dice you roll for a check. So the 3 options you have is Average, which is 6s across the board, Focus, which is 1 6, 1 10, and 2 4s, and Specialty, which is 2 4s and 2 8s. Once again, Dijon mustard. A character has 2 more special stats, Health and Defense. These values are not tied to any dice and not used in any checks. So we have Health, basically HP, self-explanatory. Defense is also self-explanatory. Defense always begins at 0 and can be raised by various equipment and other means. And once again, we have a case where defense is damage reduction, not chance to avoid.
Yep. It's soak instead of dodge.
So then we have the core attributes. Strength for attack actions, Intelligence for magic actions, Dexterity for dodge actions, and Charisma for skill actions. Then you have the carrying capacity, which is your strength plus 2. Which is the fact that they're describing it that way makes me think of the equipment slots you'd see in, say, the Black Hack. Then they have an example setup. Then we have weapon type. Each Esper is skilled in the use of a particular weapon. The chosen weapon type will represent their weapon that the character will use most in combat. An Esper starts with a weapon from their chosen weapon type. Try to choose a weapon that sounds fun to use during combat, but also make sure your party is able to work together to close the distance on your enemies. So the weapons available are daggers, sword, longsword, axe, cane, spear, bow, and boomerang, which have a range of either close, near, or far, and will add or subtract points to the attack total. Although I'm not seeing a great sword. Weapon types can be differentiated by their range and effect. Each weapon type has one of 3 different ranges. Close must be within 10 feet, near must be within 15 feet, and far can be 40 feet away to properly attack, cannot attack if the target is within 10 feet. Note, if an Esper is attacking a target that is slightly further out of reach, it is possible for that player to make the attack with disadvantage with the GM's approval. And then, then we have background, which is more of a narrativist thing. Though I do like that there's quite a few questions that can be used as lead-ins for background.
Yeah, ways to help guide you build your character up.
Yeah. Same thing with
from a narrative point of view.
personality and appearance. Then generating fate. Finally, once you have completed your character, it is time to imbue them with their fate. Your character's fate is created by drawing the top 20 cards of your Aether, from your Aether, after shuffling, of course. Your Aether is a standard deck of 52 poker cards. Fate is the abstraction of magic flowing through the character. Their fate is revealed to them in the form of cards. Your character's fate is pivotal in combat, as each of these cards determine what type of combat actions you may take during each turn. Once your fate has been generated, you may look through them and shuffle them. As time goes on, it will be possible to add or remove cards from your deck, so don't worry too much if you don't have the greatest fate before you. And then we get to playing the game. I'll let you take that.
In this section, you will learn everything you need to know to dive into your own game of Espers. Whether you're a seasoned role player or new to the genre, the following pages will guide you through the essential mechanics, rules, and concepts that form the backbone of your experience as an Esper. First section is called Phases. A game phase is a scene or turn, represented by one of 4 overall themes at any given time that helps the overall flow of the game for new and experienced players alike. The game phases in Espers fall into one of these 4 categories: exploration phase, dungeon phase, combat phase, conclusion phase.
Once again,
it's important.
At this point, I'm starting to wonder if Corey and us have same brain syndrome.
Possibly. It's important to note that game phases can be used in any order. For example, exploration, dungeon, combat, combat, exploration, conclusion, etc. When acting as the GM, make sure to announce when a phase has ended and another begins, so that all players are aware of the change and know how to roleplay appropriately for the new phase. While it is possible to play Espers without using the game phase structure, this structure may help players of all skill levels determine what they need to accomplish at the given moment. And we have this page of the phases that I'll go ahead and take. This last section was so short. So, exploration phase. Finding new clues, talking, gathering intel, investigating, used primarily within areas of interests and towns. In an exploration phase, players will focus on engaging in dialogue with NPCs, gathering vital intelligence, and simply exploring the environment for any clues or things of interest. This phase is predominantly utilized within the wilds and towns, where the narrative unfolds through interaction and discovery. Players track their progress through management of their character stats, items, and currency, ensuring they are adequately prepared for any challenges that lie ahead. And so it even has a little cheat sentence here that players are tracking stats, items, and money. Then there's combat phase. Surprise attacks, engaging monsters, and inescapable conflict, used only when engaging in battles. In a combat phase, players are thrust into a conflict, whether through surprise attacks, engaging monsters or adversaries, or facing inescapable confrontations. Combat occurs solely during battles, with players closely monitoring their characters' stats, items, fate, and the dynamic environment to strategize and overcome their foes. And so it even has the its own sheet of player tracking, stats, items, fate, environment. We have the dungeon phase. Investigating an unknown cavern, traveling through a dangerous slum, passing through an old factory. Used when in places that present the risk of danger and opportunity of treasure. The dungeon phase focuses the player's attention on various dangerous locations, all fraught with danger and teeming with opportunities for treasure. This phase is initiated in locations where the risk of danger is high, often leading to combat encounters. Players track their progress through common stats, items, and currency. So we have the stats, items, and currency tracking again. And then the conclusion phase. The end of a chapter. The session has come to an end. A larger resolution has happened or a massive revelation has been made. Used primarily to end a game session. The conclusion phase marks the culmination of a chapter or session, usually signifying the end of a game session. It serves as a pivotal moment where resolutions or revelations occur, shaping the trajectory of the ongoing narrative. Players monitor their advancement levels, common stats, and special stats, reflecting on their journey and preparing for the next chapter of Espers. And the player tracking here is advancement levels, common stats, and special stats.
Mm-hmm. So I appreciate that it notes what you're going to be tracking for each. But then we get to Czechs, and Germans, and Swedes, and every other nationality.
Not Romanians. They don't count.
RPGs frequently include a random element to represent uncertainty, mystery, and the possibility of failure. When performing an action, stats are used to determine success or failure. The higher the stat, the better chances are for success. However, no matter how high your stats are, there's always a chance of failure. In Espers, a roll of the dice and the use of your fate determines a random influence upon a story. Rolling dice to determine success or failure is called a check. Then it goes into performing a check, which is kind of self-explanatory what we're going to be dealing with in this case. I do appreciate that there is a 6-step process in it, though.
Yeah.
And the range for the target numbers. 2 to 3 is very easy. 4 to 5 is easy. 6 to 7 is standard. 8 to 12 is difficult. 12 to 16 is very difficult. 17 to 20 is impossible.
But we don't really have any examples of what those are supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
So, as we always harp on about, where's the guidance?
Mm-hmm. Then it goes into critical. A critical, or crit for short, is performed when the die rolled during a check shows its maximum current value. For example, if we are making a strength check and our strength is a d8, then the result would need to be the maximum value of 8. A critical always results in a spectacular success, and fumbles are when it's at its lowest. Though I don't think it ever stated before that that your core stat numbers also determine the die size you'd roll.
That might be defined later. I don't know.
But then we get to casting magic. You want to take that, or should I?
I guess I'll take casting magic.
Mm-hmm.
Inside of combat, each character will cast magic by playing a magic diamonds card, then rolling the die associated with their magic stat, and finally adding the two totals together for the result. Outside of combat, your magic can be cast freely, but is not assisted by a fate card. When attempting to cast magic outside of combat, the GM may require the character to surpass a certain target number in order for the magic to be successful. And then we have the flow of combat. Combat encounter is triggered whenever one or more characters or NPCs attack one another. Combat utilizes your fate to determine most of your available actions during combat. And the combat encounter is an 8-step process. 1. Battle begins when enemies engage the party. Negotiations fail. The party ambushes an enemy or any other situation where violence becomes inevitable. 2. The players place their characters on the battlefield if you're using a battle map or grid, or otherwise announce where their characters are if using a different method. 3. Players will draw 5 cards from the top of their fate and place them into their hands. This is known as your hand and contains the combat actions you may take during your turn of combat. 4. Battle is divided into consecutive rounds. The first round begins. 5. Unless ambushed, the players always go first. That's important. Roll your dex stat to determine order amongst your party. 6. The character or enemy with the highest initiative takes their turn first, followed by the next highest, and so on. Each turn allows for 2 basic actions, such as talking, moving, or using an item, in addition to your one combat-related action.
Mm-hmm.
7. Once all participants have performed their actions, the round is over and each player draws 1 card from their fate. Combat returns to step 3 and repeats. A round is about 30 seconds if you're tracking time. If all fate cards have been drawn, shuffle the discard pile and use this as your new fate. 8. Battle ends when the party or enemy has left the battle by escaping, has been incapacitated by injury, or when an agreement is made between both sides to end hostilities.
Mm-hmm. So with that said, right after that we get into turns and actions. During their turn, a character may perform the 2 basic actions, such as moving, jumping, climbing, or using an item. Anything like pushing an object, speaking, or hand gestures can be used at any time during combat on the player character's turn, but should be kept to a minimum so that combat can resolve in a timely pace. Moving. Characters possess a movement speed of 40 by default, which lets them move up to 40 feet per turn. The amount of feet that can be traveled per turn is directly tied to the character's movement speed. Let's see, then items. Items can be used during combat and may automatically trigger during combat if held. Then combat actions. We have attacking. There are 3 different ways a character can attack on their turn, provided they have the appropriate card from their fate. Characters may only perform 1 combat action per turn unless otherwise stated. Magic, using magic to cast a powerful spell. This combat action is tied to the intelligence stat. Magic attacks are usually a simple but creative spell influenced by the chosen magic art. Magic is not limited to any range restrictions while in combat. Skill, utilizing a skill to deal devastating damage. This combat action is tied to the charisma stat. Skill attacks are a typically powerful attack that inflicts 1 or more effects on enemies, but can also buff or heal party members depending on the magic art. Each skill can only be used once per combat. If the player has exhausted all their character's available skills, they can no longer perform skills during this combat. And attack, ready your weapon to deliver damage. This is tied to the strength stat. Standard attacks deal solid damage, but can be used in many creative ways. The range of attacks is determined by your weapon types. The following combat actions are tied to their respective stats. So, dodge is dexterity, attack is strength, magic is intelligence, and skill is charisma, as mentioned before. Whenever you play a card and perform a combat action, add the total value of the combat action to the result of the corresponding die roll to determine damage. For example, if I play an 8 of clubs to make an attack, I will roll the die associated with my strength, let's say a d6, and roll a total of 4. Now we have our 2 totals, 8 and 4, we can add these together for a damage total of 12. And we have dodging. Dodging is the 4th and final combat action. During the opponent's turn, once they have declared an attack, and after an accuracy check, a character can perform a dodge to attempt to maneuver out of the way of an attack. Dodging is performed by rolling your dex plus the value on the dodge card and comparing it against the incoming damage. If the total of the dodge surpasses the damage total, the dodge is a success. If the total of the dodge is lower, the attack still hits. And accuracy checks. In combat, before calculating damage, you will need to perform an accuracy check once you've declared your attack to determine if the attack misses or hits. To perform an accuracy check, take the die associated with your dex and the enemy's dex, and roll them against one another. If the player character has the highest number, their attack hits. If the enemy has the highest number, the attack misses.
Not so sure I like that with accuracy checks. Because it means that no matter what, Dex has to have at least a semi-decent number in it.
You would rather not have Dex as a god stat?
Yep. I would rather not have Dex as a god stat.
Especially since the way things were set up before that, it seemed like each pillar of actions would require a different one of the 4 different stats.
Yeah.
So I can understand why you would say that. Uh,
Well,
but
especially the fact that with attacking, you're using a different card than you are for dodging, so you're double dipping. And you like your resource cost for your actions as cards is your fate. You know, like if you have no diamonds cards in your hands, you can't cast any magic. If you have no hearts cards in your hands, you can't use any skills. Um, so you're already spending a resource to attack in the first place. Adding a second check on top of that just it strikes me as double dipping. I don't really like double dipping. You know.
mhm.
Yeah. So with that, we move on to understanding fate. All Espers have a fate. Fate is the abstraction of magic flowing through the character. Their fate is revealed to them in the form of cards. Your character's fate is pivotal in combat, and each of these cards determine what type of combat actions you may take during each turn. You can think of this type of combat as similar to any turn-based RPG, like Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, and more. To better understand fate, let's break down the terms associated. We have Ether, a standard 52-card poker deck, which players will use to draw their fate. Fate, 20 cards drawn at random from the Ether. Place these cards face down next to the Ether. Hand, when entering combat, by default, each player will draw 5 cards from their fate unless otherwise stated. These 5 cards become your hand. Combat actions. Each individual card represents a combat action that you can perform during combat. You may only make 1 combat action per turn unless otherwise stated. Discard pile. When a card from your fate is played from your hand, it enters the discard pile. Once all cards in your fate have been drawn, you may shuffle your discard pile and it becomes your fate. There's a section that says using fate. Whenever characters enter combat, the players must draw a hand of 5 cards from their fate. During combat, this hand will determine the combat actions they make on their turn. A character by default has a maximum hand size of 5 cards and will draw a card from their fate each turn when able. If a player has more than 5 cards in their hand at the end of their turn, they must discard until they reach the hand size maximum. It's possible to utilize equipment, shops, and items to change how your fate behaves, and it is important to study your fate and create the best strategies you can. When combat ends, all cards are placed back into the player's fate and are shuffled. The card suits are tied to their respective combat actions. Spades are dodge, clubs are attack, diamonds are magic, and hearts are skill. So, like, if you don't have any spades, I'm guessing you can still dodge just by rolling decks, but if you don't have a really good dex die number, you're kind of screwed. We have card values. A standard poker card deck consists of 52 cards divided into 4 suits: clubs, diamonds, hearts, and spades. Each of these suits has 13 cards, where the order of the cards is numbered from 2 to 10 and includes the face cards, Jack, Queen, King, and finally Ace. The values of each card are usually denoted at the corner of the card. Value ranges from 2 to 10 for the numbered cards, 10 for each face card, and 11 for each ace card. This value is added to the result of the die rolled when performing a combat action. Changing fate. Throughout your adventures, there are moments where you may have the opportunity to add or remove cards from your fate, thereby altering the trajectory of combat and providing you with new strategies. This can occur through various in-game events, such as completing significant quests, encountering powerful entities, or even visiting a fate shop. Each card in your fate deck represents a potential outcome in combat, and manipulating these cards allows you to steer your battles in the desired direction. So what you're looking for in reality of your 20 cards is to have either the 4 court cards and if you want to have the optimal fate deck, you have the 10, the 3 court cards, and the ace of every suit. You're not going to get that, not unless you stack the deck or are insanely lucky like me. But I guess through fate shops you could manipulate it until you have that. It'd probably be pretty expensive though.
Mhm.
All right. I'll leave health and recovery and items and equipment to you.
Mhm. So, health and recovery, HP dictates how much damage a character can take before they risk death. A character has 40 HP by default. If it reaches 0, they are defeated. That may mean different outcomes depending on situation and scenario. If a PC's HP reaches 0, they must make a life or death roll. To make a life or death roll, use a d20. If the result is 11 or higher, the character survives at 1 HP. Otherwise, the character is considered dead. Only one life or death check can be made per campaign for each character. If a character survives their first life or death check, but later has their HP reduced to 0 again, they are automatically considered dead. I'll hold off on that. Recovery. Characters may regain HP or recover from conditions in the following ways. If a character gets a night of peaceful sleep and a full meal, they recover from all conditions and fully restore their HP. If a character narratively receives assistance from someone else during a non-combat phase, they can recover from any appropriate conditions, and some items and relics may remove conditions and restore HP. When recovering through a roleplay scenario at a hospital or healer, make sure to note if there are any costs for these services, as well as the time it takes to recover. The fact that you only get one shot when it comes to the life or death roll, I'm not entirely sure about that.
Well, so ignoring you only get this once per campaign thing. I think the idea of 11 or up, you survive, 10 or down, you die is better than doing 3 different rolls that the most ubiquitous / litigious game does.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Having it being only once per campaign is frankly fucking ludicrous. A series of bad rolls can fuck you.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you want to have it that the threshold goes up if you're doing it multiple times per day, that's one thing. But I don't see why it has to be a one and done.
Once per. Here's where I could see it, Monk. Once per encounter, once per combat, or maybe once per maybe even once per phase, depending on what's happened. Because if you get in an encounter and you get downed and you manage to survive and get back up again, then yeah, getting downed a second time could be seen as you powered through your wounds the first time, but you just can't do it the second time. But let's say that you finish the combat and you go and do other things and have recovered somewhat because you've had your time to rest and bandage your wounds and whatever. The next combat, you should get to do it again. Straight up. Especially if you're being a hero of magic. I would, if I were going to play this, if I were going to run this, I would house rule the shit out of that.
Mm-hmm. I could certainly see that. So then we have items and equipment. The items and equipment available in Espers are as varied as the challenges you will face. From basic provisions and healing potions to powerful magical artifacts and intricately crafted weapons, each item serves a unique purpose. Healing items restore your health, while potions can enhance your abilities or provide temporary advantages. Weapons and armor are crucial for defending against the myriad of threats you will encounter, and each piece of equipment is designed to complement different combat styles and strategies. And we have a rarity guide. So we have 4 tiers: common, uncommon, rare, and legend. And then a group of sample items.
They all do different things.
It doesn't say here, but I'm assuming size is the number of slots that it takes.
I would assume that's probably the size in your income. It's because remember that your carry capacity is strength +2.
Mm-hmm.
That's likely how much of that capacity it takes.
Yeah. Also, glid is obviously the currency standard.
Guild.
Guild.
The L comes after the I there, Monk.
I don't know why I misread it like that.
Maybe because your brain is trying to say this isn't a Final Fantasy game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean to be a little tongue-in-cheek about that, but the name of the game, the art, the fact that there's a combination of magic and technology at a certain level, the way that there's an empire that's persecuting people called Espers instead of an empire just catching and persecuting Espers. There's a lot of inspiration for Final Fantasy VI in here.
if we end up seeing a train suplex, I'm leaving. Anyway, uh, then we have equipment. I do like that they note that equipment does not take up a space when equipped. And we have bangles, rings. He's not even trying.
Wow. Holy
Especially with
shit.
some of
What?
these accessories.
No, like Monk. Opal earring gains advantage on attack actions. That's on all actions of that type, right?
Mhm. Um, I don't see anything that would
I don't see a
indicate,
limitation. It just says attack actions.
and is only 700 guild and is an uncommon item.
Which means you could get it at a bigger town.
Although, did it go into what advantage is?
I don't think so. Let me check.
Oh, see, after that is the bestiary. Uh, we won't go into the individual bestiaries, but I will note that there's a few tags that are worth noting.
So there is no description of what advantage or disadvantage are.
That's a problem.
That is a big problem.
Mm-hmm. But there's like I said, there's a few tags when it comes to monster abilities that are worth noting. All damages all party members. Flying can only be damaged by ranged attacks. Direct deals damage directly, ignores defense. Terrify deals damage that ignores dodge. Thrash can take 2 actions per turn. Reflect magic reflects magic attacks. Reflect physical reflects physical attacks. And Crush breaks the character's weapon when this monster is dealt damage by close attacks.
Crush seems a little unfair.
Mm-hmm. Especially since people are going to have the mindset of using one weapon as their signature weapon.
Yeah. I like how the fate deck works in combat though. There's not going to be a rainy day paradox because someone knows they can just use their fate until it's a discard pile and then until it's all the discard pile and then reshuffle and draw again.
Mm-hmm. Though I'm not entirely sure where the deck building part in this comes in.
I imagine that is the getting your fate cards and constructing your deck that way through like fate shops and stuff.
Yeah. I would say it's very clear that the choice of magic arts seems to be somewhat I would say it was somewhat analogous to a class, but given how sorcery given the fact that everybody starts with sorcery,
well, sorcery is there just so you have some magic to do simple shit.
But
the 3 actual arts are basically your skill packages.
Mm-hmm.
Because just because you choose illusion doesn't mean that you are DPS. A lot of the stuff does DPS, but there's also a lot of the stuff that makes you very, very dodgy or makes it so you can CC.
What I'm curious about is whether or not someone can pursue more than one magic art.
That'll probably be addressed in the full game. But so my criticisms, the few that I have, because it is pretty interesting, but I think my criticisms are fairly major here. One, we have no description of what advantage or disadvantage is.
Yeah, that's
no
a
description.
Problem. I can assume it means roll 2 and drop the higher or lower, respectively.
Yeah,
but that is something I'm carrying over from other games.
Yeah, that's not something that's defined in this quick start, and it needs to be because this is a quick start, and you're going to be seeing new people play this.
Mm-hmm. I'd say the other thing is it didn't outright state that the stat values are what becomes dice. I know
Yes, they
that.
did.
Oh, it did. Never mind.
To begin creating your character, select one of the following sets of numbers. Record those values on your character sheet by taking each value from the set and place each one into the desired stat. These values will determine the size of the dice you roll for a check.
Mhm.
It's right there, black and white. It's something you skipped, actually.
Yeah, I think when it comes to that, uh,
Blindness.
it should be made because somebody might end up making the mistake of not knowing how one goes into the other. Oh, of course, there's also the fact that we that we don't have a character sheet yet.
Yep.
It certainly doesn't help matters,
Yep.
but given the target numbers, uh, there's a part of me. I don't think this is gonna. I don't think it could be as swingy, but since it revolves around a hand, while the too good to use problem isn't going to be present, there is one thing that's notorious in Magic the Gathering that could end up happening.
Brick hand.
Yep, you're mana screwed or mana flooded.
Yep. Your hand is a brick.
Mm-hmm.
And Dragon is right. The entire reason we ask for guidance is never assume your players have played another TTRPG.
Yeah. Also, because of the way criticals and fumbles work, that could result in some getting criticals very easily.
But also getting fumbles very easily.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine rolling a D4 and getting a fucking 1. That's a 1 in 4 chance.
But we do not know what a spectacular success entails,
or a terrible failure.
Mm-hmm. Like
we need examples for that, and examples of what the difficulties for the target numbers even imply.
I'd say something else that I think would be necessary is what exactly rolling a critical or a fumble does, because I'm under no assumption that rolling either is an automatic success or an automatic failure.
Yeah, we need some guidance for that.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, I think accuracy checks are misguided and maybe something carried over from other games. Because you're already spending resources to attack in the first place. You're already spending a clubs card to attack. I think that having an accuracy check on top of that means that you could spend a resource and it be completely useless with nothing, with no active countermeasure from the enemy. Because this is just a passive, you're rolling their dex die against your dex die. Well, if your dex die isn't high, you are much more likely to fuck up on attack accuracy checks. And if you've decided, hey, I want to focus on doing magic stuff, hey, that's all fine and dandy, but what if you've got no diamonds in hand?
Yeah, that's why I said that the brick issue could be a potential thing.
Yes, and so, like, if through the fate shops you can eventually replace every card in your deck with what you want, like, that's one thing. It'll probably cost you a lot of guild, but it'd be one thing.
Mm-hmm.
It'd also probably take a lot of time.
Yeah,
but that'll probably have to wait for the core book. And then, of course, my final major criticism is that life or death roll. Once per campaign is way too little. Everything else we've said about the rainy day paradox is kind of moot with the way the fate card system works, is completely and utterly overturned by that life or death roll thing, because that means every player character is going to be playing as conservatively as possible so that they never go to 0 HP. You have now made the rainy day paradox out of the entire fucking game.
Yeah.
And that's not fun.
Mm-hmm.
That is straight up not fun. I know I sound very harsh, almost as if I hate these guys, but I don't even know the Rookie Jet guys. Monk has talked to them, but I have not. This is me being harsh on a mechanic that I think will make a game just generally unfun for everyone involved.
Yeah. there's a part of me that wonders if I think the idea of accuracy checks we wouldn't have a problem with. The idea that it has to be tied to dex we have a problem with. I honestly think accuracy should be tied to the action that you're doing.
I okay, so the problem I have with accuracy checks overall is you're already spending a resource. No matter what you're doing in combat, you're already spending a card. You are already spending something, and this check could invalidate that spending with no active countermeasure from the opponent. I don't like that.
That is fair.
I mean, especially for a system that's going as this is a very streamlined system as we can see in the Quickstart.
Mm-hmm.
This is a very it looks like it's going to be very fast paced gameplay. For something like that, you want your resource to be spent in a way that feels meaningful, even if there is a failure. Like, because even in our, I'm going to bring it back over to Legend Edition as I always fucking do. Even in our system, when you have to spend a resource to cast magic and cast your casting roll to make sure that you can cast that magic, that doesn't invalidate the magic you tried to cast because of the overrun rule. Because of the rule where, oh, you failed your casting? Okay, well, you only lose the MP that you used to buy into the cast in the first place. So the 2 MP. And then you get 1/3 of whatever your roll result was as a bonus to your next casting roll. That your failure did not waste your efforts entirely. It actually failed forward a little bit. Sure, you lose a little bit of MP. That sucks. But at least you still got more effort towards your next cast concerning that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like it. I think it's a especially considering that it pulls everything down to a single die roll, contested die roll of a die you may have a terrible die in. You may have decided to go focused, taking the 10-6-4-4 and put a 4 into dex because you really want that 10 in intelligence because you want to cast magic like a fucking boss.
Yep.
And then you get screwed.
Mm-hmm. But
it would not feel fun.
Yeah, but hopefully those are things that can be ironed out with future updates. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if we see another update in a few weeks or so.
I hope that the people who play these quick starts bring up the same issues.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even playing this, but I can see the issue having run way too many fucking tabletop games in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Experienced players and experienced GMs will be able to generally look at a set of rules and see where the problems might be because they've experienced the problems of bad rules before. I'm not saying I'm omniscient or clairvoyant or prescient. I'm just saying that pattern recognition says these have the very high risk of causing game to feel bad to play. And I don't want that. I don't want that. I want games to succeed, and I want games to be in their best form. And it is because of that my criticism comes from a genuine place of love, even if it sounds like I'm cursing up a fucking storm.
Because we curse like sailors in general.
I think we'd make sailors blush, Monk. I get very passionate about things. You all know this. You've probably seen enough Valleys of the Judged, or Geek Watches, or Cloisters of the Dice, or Parliaments of Geeks, and you know how I work as a person. You know I'm the guy who gets loud about the things I care about because I care about them that much.
Mm-hmm.
This is just another one of those times. I sincerely hope that Rookie Jet can take any criticism they might take from this if they watch this even. I did bing them, that's no guarantee. But if they do watch it, I would love that they take this criticism as here are things I feel are the most detrimental to your game that can be improved with some small changes. There's some very small changes that could be made to improve a lot of the things we talked about and still keep the core of your game intact. Not to mention the fact you mentioned in the beginning that Espers are super powerful. So, like, why is there only one life or death roll? Esper has magic, bruh. I'm gonna stand back up by fusing my flesh together with stone.
Also, put in a damn character sheet.
Yeah, we need a good character sheet to indicate. We want some organized indications of things. Like I could make a probably an okay character sheet based off of all this.
Yeah, but I've seen the character sheet design that Rookie Jet does. He's very good at that. Uh,
Well, then you should make a good character sheet.
but with that said, that is going to do it for this particular episode. We will be back tomorrow with one more Valley of the Judge. I did not plan on doing 4 valleys back to back in the span of a week, but that's how the proverbial cookie crumbled. But tomorrow, same time, same channel, we'll be covering the one we initially planned on, Kurai G-Con. So please look forward to that. But until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra. I am your gaming monk. Stay fucking frosty, everybody.